Coming up on this episode of the Entrepreneurial You
need to be thinking about how do you differentiate yourself. So when I'm saying that, I mean, what is it about you that is different from anyone else in your industry? One question I ask myself every day is, who do I have to become? Because it's always a person thing. It's never that you're lacking anything. It's you have not been ready to show up in the way that will allow the success that you desire to come to you.
Hey, it's John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and it's the Entrepreneurial You, the show for dedicated and passionate Caribbean entrepreneurs seeking daily inspiration, brought to you by author, speaker, and award-winning entrepreneur Heneka Watkis-Porter. You must be prepared to ignite.
Hello. It is your girl, Heneka Watkis-Porter, your podcast host, podcast coach, podcast producer, and welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneurial Podcast. And this is a podcast that takes you from dreaming big to doing big with your weekly source of inspiration and actionable insights on business, leadership, and success. I'm your host, of course, as I said before, Heneka Watkis-Porter. Today, as usual, we have a phenomenal guest who is shaking things up in the entrepreneurial world. I want you to meet Stormi Banks, the powerhouse behind Pink Print, a digital consulting firm dedicated to helping minority women entrepreneurs secure debt-free funding through grants. I love that. From a mobile hair salon to launching a mentorship program, Stormi is all about empowering women to scale their businesses and make their mark. Welcome, Stormi.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, absolutely. So good to have you. And let me just say a quick thank you to our sponsors, the Jamaica Stock Exchange. And of course, we have HenekaWatkis-Porter.com. Now, we're going to be looking today at the Stormi Banks journey from mobile salon to mentorship and funding success. And as today, we're really exploring the world of funding and mentorship for minority women entrepreneurs. And of course, along the way, I know Stormi is going to share her journey from a mobile hair salon owner to becoming a mentor for aspiring businesswomen. All right. So Stormi, before we start, into the thick of things, let me ask you a little fun question. If you were to create a business anthem for Pink Print, which song would you pick and why?
A business anthem for Pink Print. I would probably choose Girls, We Run the World by Beyonce, because that is the true tea. I really do think that, we have the juice and the squeeze, and we can make things happen if we just understand the power that we possess.
Wow, interesting. A lot of us don't recognize how much power that really truly lies deep within us. Sometimes we've not allowed it to express itself. It really wants to have that full expression, but sometimes in our own doing, we don't necessarily allow it to unearth itself. But you're obviously playing big and you've done that. So let's talk about your journey from having a mobile hair salon. What was that like first and foremost?
Yeah, having a mobile hair salon is an amazing venture to go into. It was really easy to scale, and we made a lot of revenue in that business, built some amazing connections that I still have to this day that flourish my business. And so I think one of the most important things is that you can only, express, like you were saying earlier, what you've been exposed to. So I just found that there were other people in life who were living without having to do services in terms of like standing on your feet all day and working inside of your business, that I was like, hey, what's another avenue that I can take? And that's what prompted me to really want to start my mobile hair salon.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. So then you've had that, and now you've had this passion for helping other women entrepreneurs. And I mean, I have a social enterprise. In addition to all that I do, I have a social enterprise called Grace to Grow. And one thing that I've always wanted to do was to get funding for it. And we're going to touch on the funding part of it, but just kind of tell us your that thing that allow you to, that's part of the passion in you to do that.
To go from mobile hair salon to
yes
business?
Yes.
Yeah. I think honestly, it stemmed from wanting time freedom, right? I wanted the opportunity to not have to trade my time for money. And I figured out during COVID, which was the transition period for me, that there was a lot of people introducing educational and resources and webinars into people's lives. And I had been a successful business owner already, talked to so many women who are also business owners. And I just saw, hey, this is a time where we really need a lot of funding. And I've already secured grants for my business. So let me utilize those two skill sets and put it out in the world and kind of see what it creates.
Wonderful, wonderful. So along that journey, I mean, it's so interesting how COVID-19 did a thing to all of us, right? It's like we kind of find ourselves as a result of, in that period that everybody was collectively going through COVID-19. So it is all about teaching women how to get debt-free funding through grants. So what are some of those common misconceptions about grants that you'd like to clear up? A lot of people hear grants and, well, let me not preempt anything. What is it that comes to mind, and what are some of those misconceptions that you think we should kind of clear up today?
Yeah, I think people just don't understand that they qualify. They don't feel like there's a grant out there for them. And that's super far from the truth. There's grants for literally everything. I mean, I'm on the databases every day and I see grants for scuba divers. I see grants for jewelry makers. I mean, things that you would be like, wow, there's grants for this. Yes, there's grants for it because someone else shares your passion and is connected to funding resources that could be able to help you grow your business. And so they also believe that you need credit to be able to get grants. A lot of people are always asking, is my credit being poor or not built going to affect my grant applications? And this is not true either. Grants are really something that you can get at any stage in business. There's no credit checks involved. And sometimes you don't even have to have any revenue to get started with like micro grants and startup grants that are available. So I think that it's important for people to just educate themselves more on the process and understand that there are grants available for you, especially if you use, grant databases like grantwatch.com or helloskip.com.
Right, because that was going to be my next question. So where do we find these grants? And is it only applicable to people that are in the US? Because there's a whole world happening outside of the US, right?
Yeah, so I personally use in our company grantwatch.com and grants.gov. So with both of those sites, you can find grants all over the country, right? All over the United States, all over Africa, all over Jamaica, the Bahamas, Virgin Islands. There's grants all over in those different categories and areas. And using the database is important because sometimes people don't find grants because they'll go on Google on, grants for minority women. You're going to find ads, right? The first whole page is going to discourage you just because it's a bunch of people trying to get you to do working capital or a credit card or a loan. So you need to specifically be using grant databases that actually have grant opportunities.
And now you've found those grants, Stormi. What are some of the things that you need to think about? And I'm asking for a friend, and that friend is me, right? What are some of the things that you definitely need to consider? Because as a young social enterprise without any experience of handling funds, grant funding for the business, and albeit I've handled grant funding for my corporate business. But in terms of social enterprise, we don't have a track record, right? And so we are constantly being denied, right? So kind of talk to somebody like me, talk to other listeners who are feeling, a little bit despondent about this whole grant application process. What are some of those things that we need to consider?
You need to be thinking about how do you differentiate yourself. So when I'm saying that, I mean, what is it about you that is different from anyone else in your industry? Is it your sustainability with your packaging or the way that you source your materials? Is it who you serve? Do you serve a niche particular audience that has been underrepresented for a very long time? Do you have some kind of super corporate responsibility and a social mission that impacts the community around you? Are you considering the ways that you're doing it faster, better, cheaper, right? You want to utilize your leverage leverage in your industry that will help you differentiate yourself against the competition. One of the reasons people are getting denied is they're not understanding it's a competition-based program. You're not going to wake up one day and go run the Olympics, right? You're going to train for years. You're going to do cross country. You're going to be working on that. And so you have to work on your grant game as well. You have to be applying, get denied, ask for feedback, see how you can rearrange your strategy to be successful in the end. And you also should think about your budget. That's one of the biggest parts of a grant, is having a realistic budget with actual numbers, not just what you think you need, but the actual numbers per line item of what you need and how those things will make your business grow, or the project that you're working on, how will that money in those ways benefit the business long term? So being able to articulate those two things, you will literally have so much leg up on the competition just from those two.
All right, so talk us through that mentorship, because what you've said, I mean, in our own heads, clearly we're thinking, oh, we've touched on those, we've touched that. Talk us through your mentorship program, Stormi, and how do you give that specific guidance, that is, because I know it's not a one size fits all for everybody, right? It's specific to the organization, it's specific to the entrepreneur and what it is their focus is on. So let's talk us through your mentorship program and how do you select your women? How do you ensure that they have success?
Yeah, so we have a few different ways that we do that at the basis of who we are as education. My mother's a higher ed educator my whole life. So that's just a core part of who I am. And with that being said, we literally have these 5-day seminars that we do, once a month or every quarter, depending on the scheduling. And what we do is take 5 days to go through the full process of structuring the business, structuring the nonprofit, going through the different databases. How do you search for different grants? What are the key tools that you should be using? How do you write a grant proposal? What are the things that should be in it? And how do you break this down? And then also, how do you manage grants, right? With the taxes, because they're debt-free, but they're not tax-free. So it's important to be able to manage the grants properly so that you can build those relationships. Once you get funded one time, they have more money. So building that relationship is pivotal to your success long term if you don't want to have to keep applying to grants every single day, So that's kind of how our mentorship works. We choose our people. I just want people that are determined. I want people who are ready. I want people who are excited and passionate about their business. Everything else can be obtained. We can get an LLC. We can get a business. We can, get everything together as far as the structure. We can learn the grant process. We can apply. But if you're going to come in and you don't have the attitude for success, it's difficult to reframe that mindset. You know what I mean? So if they can come in with the right mindset, that's a positive start for me.
Okay, awesome sauce, awesome sauce. All right, we are going to take a break at this juncture, and we are going to hear from our sponsors.
We needed to raise capital, but our experience with local financial institutions was that they were cautious and slow to act, and interest rates were far too high. We had real concerns about financing our business through outside equity investors and the possibility of interference. Could we get a fair valuation for our business? We had our own ideas about the business and its value. Should I go the traditional route of bank financing, or should I try the Jamaica Stock Exchange? So we made a call and experienced transformation of our business through conversations. I'm John Mahfood, CEO of Jamaican Teas, and we're listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Give us a call today at 876-967-3271 to begin your transformation through conversation. We want to see your company listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Welcome back. Welcome back. I, of course, am speaking with Stormi Banks, and she is giving us a scoop on getting grants and her mentorship program. So mentorship and community, Stormi, is clearly at the core of what it is that you do. Why is this important for women entrepreneurs, especially minority women?
Yeah, I think it's important. I know that a lot of people say that we're overeducated and underfunded, but I also don't think that you can ever be overeducated, right? You always can bring new revelations to your life that inspire you to change and want to do things differently or adapt new techniques that other people who are in positions that inspire you are doing. One question I ask myself every day is, who do I have to become? Right? Because it's always a person thing. It's never that you're lacking anything. It's you have not been ready to show up in the way that will allow the success that you desire to come to you. So I think having that guidance by someone that is actually educated. We know that there's some fluffies on the Instagrams and Facebooks, but one, finding someone who's actually educated with the credentials. B, finding someone who has the desire and passion to teach you. And then C, showing up and also doing the work is so important and vital to the success and sustainability of any business owner.
Absolutely. So I mentioned before that your background is in your mobile salon business. And there is no business that has been without its, set of challenges. So what unique challenge did you face during that business, and how did those challenges or experiences kind of shape your approach to how you consult today?
Yeah, our last business, COVID really was the challenge, right? We had that company since 2018. And when COVID hit, that kind of was just a huge shift. And we weren't able to fully survive in that moment. We had to completely shut down. Now, what I learned is to have some savings, have some savings in your pocket, and then also don't rely on one stream of income. So this kind of goes back to being educated on different things, because if you have more skill sets, you have more power to make more money, and you can quickly shift and pivot as things go on. And so for me, that was a big eye opener to diversification in my finances and just finding other ways that can always be accessed for me to gain financial freedom.
And so also what I want to find out from you is some of those steps that minority women need to take to help them prepare their businesses to apply for grants successfully. I know we touched on some of the things that we need to be doing and so on, but just hone in a little more on some of those key steps in preparing your business, right? Maybe you may need to get an accountant, for example. What are some of those things that we need to definitely focus on?
Yeah, so of course you want to have a registered business or nonprofit foundation with all of the proper paperwork that goes into that. You also need to have a website these days. There's a lot of business owners who don't have a website. You need a website, and you need to have a digital footprint. You have to be somewhere on socials like LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. Those are like the starter points. Now, at this point, depending on where you are in revenue, you want to have your profit and loss sheets or your balance sheets and your taxes for the year, because if there is a revenue requirement on the grant, they will ask for that documentation to make sure that you're eligible for the grant opportunity. And then when you're managing the grants after you've won, we use QuickBooks. So QuickBooks, of course, creates our profit and loss sheets, and it allows us to have super transparency when it comes to how we're spending the grant money. And it's important to do so that you can provide transparency with the funders and let them know how the money was spent. Or even if they don't ask, we always send them back a report to, again, build that relationship.
As I hear you talk about, what you do and what you love and your passion, Stormi, I can't help but to reflect and to think, how did you get to this place where that, boy, I can do all of these things. I can accomplish, I can go after grants and I can get it. I can create a business. Did you have a business background?
I didn't. I didn't have a business background. What I always, and I'm so grateful for my mother and my father. My dad was an entrepreneur. I saw him starting many of businesses. And so one thing that he would say is, if you can work these hours for someone else, you can do it for yourself. And that sparked curiosity, if nothing else, in me. Just like, well, what does that look like? What would that take to do that? And so I was inspired, and I never wanted to work a job. I've never clocked a job in my life, right? Never worked in corporate, because I always felt like if I'm willing to go work for them, I can do it on my own. And so that, with a little bit of hard-headedness, transformed me into being the person I am, to really understand I can definitely accomplish anything. And I get inspiration by following people on like social media or like going to events who are doing things that I love or that I'm excited by, and just asking them, what are your daily habits? Like, I never ask anybody for a photo or an autograph. I ask them every time, What are your daily habits? Because like I said in the beginning, I always am asking, who do I have to become? I know that there's nothing missing from me to today to the me in 10 years that I see for myself, except for who I'm going to become. So if you can, I feel like for me, if figuring out how to control my day-to-day, my habits, what I eat, what I drink, when I work out, how I move my body, who I talk to, those things add up. And 1% a day equals 365% every year. That's a lot of growth for a person, but you have to have that control, right? And so that's kind of, with those things all mixed up together, those are what have created the person that you see in front of you now.
Yeah, talk about atomic habits, right? James Clear would be proud.
Yeah, that's such a great book. I have my team read that book every year.
Yes. Listen, once is not enough. Once is not enough at all. All right. So what advice, Stormi, would you give to a young female entrepreneur just starting out and looking for funding opportunities? I mean, we talked about, best practices and what you should do to prepare your business and so on. But to a young woman who's just starting out, what would be your piece of advice to her?
Mine would be, girl, stop limiting yourself. You are speaking doubt and fear into your atmosphere, and it is clouding your ability to see how amazing you are, how beautiful you are, how accomplished you've already been. You have done so many amazing things, and there's so much more to come. Trust yourself, speak life into your environment, positivity and victory over what you have, and stand on your faith. That will get you through every situation, every single time. Watch your environment, hang around people who are going towards the goals that you have for yourself, and trust yourself through the process, because prosperity loves patience, and it's important to continuously be patient throughout the process with yourself and with the process itself. And that is what I will leave any female entrepreneur with at any stage.
Look here, why would I even bother ask another question after all of that? Prosperity loves patience. Let's camp out there for a bit. Like, that's a whole word. That's a whole word. Going back a little to your journey then, Stormi, because you talk about prosperity and patience. And many of us, I've had to coach myself into telling myself that, listen, where you are today is where you prayed to be 5 years ago, 6 months ago, whatever, however long ago, right? Because we don't understand sometimes that the journey is the reward, right? It's not necessarily the end that you're working towards, because many of us, we get to a particular end, and when we got there, we're like, really? This is it? So it's so important, but you want to rush the process to get there. So just talk a little bit more about prosperity, loving patience, and what does that really mean? What does that look like?
Yeah, honestly, for me, what that looks like is, like you said, this whole thing is a journey. And what I've noticed in my life when I've been focused on destination or focused on journey is that when I focused on a destination, I got there, but I missed so many key components. It took me to go through a negative situation to say, oh my goodness, this happened and I didn't realize it, or that happened to me before and I didn't understand it. But when I'm at patience and I'm at peace with how the journeys I'm playing, I'm absorbing so much more. I'm recognizing the things that God is putting in front of me and saying, okay, that was an alert right there. Let me store that. I don't know when I'll need it, but that was an alert. I see it. I'm getting more of the downloads that are for me so that I can be successful and sustain the success. That's what is so important, right? When you're rushing to a destination, you're looking to skip steps and you just want it right now, you don't build the character to become the person who can actually manage, sustain, and keep that thing going long term. So it's just so important to have patience so that you can be at a state of peace and not stressful and desperate. That doesn't attract the things that you're going to want in your life. So I just stay prayed up and keep my journey flowing throughout this process, because I'm not saying it's easy. This is not something that I've just become an expert in and being patient, because I do have my moments where I'm like, come on, I'm feeling stagnant. What's going on? I need some movement. I need something to work. But what I remember is that so many things have already worked. Sitting in that gratitude and saying, like you said, I prayed for this a year ago, or this is 5 years in the making, or, oh my goodness, I lost all this weight. I'm able to like congratulate myself on the things that I've already done, and it pulls me out of that desperation mode.
Amazing reflection right there. Let's take the community connection segment brought to you by Heneka, Watkis-Porter.com. And this is where it's all about you, right? We share your feedback, we share your comments, whatever it is, the questions you have. And today, this review comes from Mike Sipple Jr. Heneka, thank you for your content and passion to bring other stories to life for us. Keep leading well and building leaders worth following. And the caption for this is Heneka's interviews are beneficial to leaders. Yes, to leaders and entrepreneurs. So that's what we are sharing in the community connection segment today. So thank you so much, Mike, for sharing that with us today. All right. Okay. Let's now get your final thoughts, Stormi, as well as your contact details. How might persons get in touch with you, and what's your final word to us?
Yeah, so you can always contact me through social media. I'm Stormi Banks across all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Professionally, you can always connect with my company at info@pinkprint.net. You'll be able to reach out to us if you have any questions, concerns, comments, or ways that you can get started. And final word from me is thank you so much, for having me here. Super appreciative. It sounds like you have an amazing community of women and female entrepreneurs and go-getters and, people who are inspired to get to the next level. And I was just been grateful to be able to share my story and hopefully inspire someone in the room.
All right. And now we go into our trending know. And this trending know is based on employee well-being. So did you know that according to recent studies, minority women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the United States? However, only a small percentage manage to secure funding for their businesses. And so as we have Stormi Banks here today talking about funding for entrepreneurs, particularly women entrepreneurs, and how she mentors them, that is a growing trend because women, minority women in particular, are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the United States. And I know that that can be extrapolated across other parts of the world as well. So that's what's trending now. All right, Stormi, thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey and your insight with me today on the Entrepreneurial Podcast. I really appreciate you. Stormi Banks.
Absolutely. It's totally been my pleasure, and hope to come back or have you on mine someday.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Either way, for both of them, definitely yes. So if today's episode resonated with you, then of course I want you to share. I'm going to ask you kindly to share with your network, and you can leave us a review. That would be nice. And don't forget to visit HenekaWatkis-Porter.com for more tools and resources to fuel your entrepreneurial journey. Until next time, keep building your dreams, and remember, success is definitely yours for the taking. And I want you to affirm with me, I have the power to create, build, and scale my dreams. The only limit is the one that I set in my mind. Keep dreaming big, keep pushing forward, and remember, your journey is uniquely yours. Do take care. And well, too, as I close, just gonna say a final thanks to our sponsors, the Jamaica Stock Exchange and Heneka Watkis-Porter.com. Thank you so much.
We needed to raise capital, but our experience with local financial institutions was that they were cautious and slow to act, and interest rates were far too high. We had real concerns about financing our business through outside equity investors and the possibility of interference. Could we get a fair valuation for our business? We had our own ideas about the business and its value. Should I go the traditional route of bank financing, or should I try the Jamaica Stock Exchange? So we made a call and experienced transformation of our business through conversations. I'm John Mahfood, CEO of Jamaican Teas, and we're listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Give us a call today at 876-967-3271 to begin your transformation through conversation. We want to see your company listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.